Good evening, everybody, and good evening, Tim. Thanks for coming to join us on a nice snowy night here in Wisconsin, and you're not getting any of that. Good to see you again. I want to lead off congratulating you on your evening with the World Series Club. You pulled one of the my favorite card tricks that speakers do. He pulled out a deck out of his pocket like he's reading. He got his presentation there. Hi, my name is Tim Dillard flipping the cards. It was really good. Then he drops the cards, then he's scrambling to get them all and, trying, it was a classic. So, and he started by saying, I know we're supposed to have a joke or something, but just not my style. And he went into that routine. It was a classic. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's the first time I'd done something like that before, but I thought, well, or I couldn't remember if I'd done it. So I went and bought like a huge stack of index cards, and I didn't want to look like I just took them out of the plastic.
Yeah.
So I went through and took out each individual one and kind of crumpled it a little bit. So when I stacked them back together, they look like they really, and some of them I wrote stuff down on it. And then just to kind of, I don't know, I don't think anybody really fell for it, but if I'm ever in front of like some middle schoolers, I feel like that would work. Or maybe
Yeah.
kindergartners, but it was fun. I'm glad everybody humored me because it's fun to get a really good icebreaker in there.
Yeah, I agree. So let me do a real quick introduction. I think everybody probably knows Tim pretty well. He's got an 18-year professional baseball career, 4 years with the Brewers, 17 in the minors, actually, and one foreign team. Um, uh, his final season was here in Milwaukee, not with the Brewers, but with the 2020 Milwaukee Milkmen of the Independent. Is that the Northern League? Is that I can't remember what league they're
American Association.
America. Yeah, and finished there. And has been a broadcaster with the Brewers. The media guide has you first in 22, but I thought you started in 21.
Yeah, I just finished up my fifth season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I had no idea. And as far as I know, I'm signed for next year. I don't know if that's something they announce or what. Um, One day I'm going to tweet about it because I'm actually excited. I don't know if the fans are excited, but I'm excited.
I would say the people on here are excited. Every year
Yeah.
we worry about you and Vinny. You guys are hopefully you guys come back, and we like our broadcast team. We're very fortunate there. So glad to hear you're coming back. How's your? I'm going to do a different type of icebreaker. And I thought tonight would be, we're going to throw questions at you. I can, if anybody has a question, just don't be afraid to ask. But my first question is, how's your off season going?
Off season's great. I
Yeah.
mean, almost to the point where like I'm off the grid. But I'm used to that as a player back in the day, especially before you had cell phones. When the season was over, you went to the off season. It was all about, reintegrating yourself in normal life, getting to know your family again. Just found out my 10-year-old's middle name. Who knew? Just stuff like that, and actually I've gotten really big into cooking for some reason. I've been using AI, artificial intelligence, to ask recipes because I wanted to make like low ingredient stuff. So I've made like 10 loaves of bread this off season, and it's really easy to do. Like no one ever told me how easy it is to bake bread and make it, and it just takes time. And I got all the time in the world in off season, so I've been doing that. I've been working out. I put up a speed bag in my garage, so I don't have to go anywhere. But I've never. I had a speed bag, I think, when I was 18. It was an off season, I think, and I decided I was going to do it, but then just kind of abandoned it. So I don't know. I feel like it built up the shoulders. I've been shooting basketball, throwing the baseball too, just in case Pat Murphy needs somebody to throw batting practice to the minor leaguers. Whatever comes up, I want to be ready to do that. But right now, I just kind of during the season, it's really hard to get a workout in because I'm really trying to focus on my job and time management. And I'm traveling back and forth with the team. I'm traveling to Nashville and Milwaukee. So usually the off season, I try to just I don't know, I pick something new to try to dominate or something, or at least conquer or find a new skill. I think quilting is going to be my next thing. You don't have to repeat that, but I have all these cool t-shirts that don't fit anymore over my career, like t-shirts I got in El Paso or something I found at a thrift shop or John Axford gave me a shirt, whatever it is. But I can't just wear all these shirts because there's just, hundreds. So I decided I was going to make a quilt, but I don't have a sewing machine, which apparently you need, even though I can sew. So anyway, I'm looking into that and I found a place that's going to teach me how to make this quilt. So I don't know how long it'll take, but when it's done, I'll make sure everyone sees it.
I have a daughter who's a quilter, and she's made several baseball shirts out of t-shirts. So yeah,
Nice. It's
yeah,
perfect. See? That's what I need.
yeah. Any new routines that you're getting into or returning to after being gone for a while?
Um, I'm a Uber driver. I don't get paid though. I just Uber my kids around. Mainly my daughter. My daughter goes to gymnastics like 4 times a week, and she's coming up on a competition this weekend. And then my youngest is 10, and he is doing basketball, and he's type 1 diabetic. So basically, if you draft him on your little team, you get me as the assistant coach slash medical trainer. So so I'm on the sideline with all the apparatuses and mainly starbursts. And anyway, that's kind of what I do. And then he also has baseball practice sometimes, so I'll take him to baseball practice. And I got a big giant bucket of baseballs in my car. It has like 100 baseballs in it. I got fungos in there, gloves, donuts. I mean everything because I love doing that kind of stuff because it keeps me in shape too. When I'm teaching these kids how to pick a ball or field a baseball, I get to go out there and physically be able to show them how to do it. So that's kind of one of the reasons I do want to stay in some kind of baseball shape is, eventually I want to get to the point where I can kind of be able to, teach others, but not just talk to them about it. I could actually show them how to do it.
Good. I'm going to start out with one question and then open it up to anybody else. Um, this is the first year with Bob Euchre. How was, I'm sure it was a very different year, yet in many ways it felt like you guys had Bob with you. How would you describe it?
He was very much present. I mean, it was every day. Every day there was something that reminded you. He was constantly, you know, present. And even on the road. I went on a lot of road trips early on, and me and Levering were in the booth, and every place we went, played a tribute on the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jeff, working with him for 10 years. I mean, and then after the tribute, then he's got to call the game. And so basically I spent most of the first, however many weeks, months of the season just kind of with my arm around Jeff, like, you know, hey man, like it's hard, and I don't think that's something that's going to go away. Guys that knew him like that, it's not going away anytime soon. And then everywhere you looked in the press box, everywhere you looked on the concourse, everybody's shirts, hats. I mean, he was everywhere. And I still feel that. I mean, I call it a shrine now, but it was just, his bobbleheads and some stuff that I acquired over the years of Bob. But yeah, I mean, he was definitely present throughout this entire season.
Yeah. Anybody have a question? I've got a bunch written down if nobody has a question, but I don't think I have to worry about that. So anybody have a question for Tim? Like to start out with?
Yeah, I've got one here, Dennis. Yeah, so Tim, I just one question here for you with playing the Immaculate Grid today.
Hmm.
How do you what is your feeling when you see a grid like today where it's like, hey, pitched only one team or pitched for Brewers, and you know that you're that person that's going to get a .03 rarity score? Like, how does that feel in your mind when you see something like that?
Yeah, I'm a proud .0003 immaculate grid man. That's cool. And actually, the first time we were on the bus. This I don't even know how many years ago this was, but whenever the grid came out, guys on the bus were talking about it. And anyway, a couple of people pulled it up. No, Christian Yelich was across the aisle from me in upper row, and we're kind of talking about it or whatever. And I looked on there and I started laughing because somebody had already texted me because they had found out that I was one of the answers. And I was like, I didn't even think I qualified because at that time they were like, This dude won 300 games. It's like, sorry, you could give me high school and college and rookie ball, and you could give me all that. It ain't coming close to 300. So all the stuff, hit 500 home runs. Like I'm out. Played shortstop or what. But then one of them was a guy that played for the Brew. No, let's see. Yeah, a guy that played for the Brewers that career average over 300. And I went 1 for 2 in the big leagues. And so people were sending this to me over and over and over again. And I kind of chuckled, and Yelich was like, he's like, what are you laughing about? I'm like, I made the grid. So we had a good laugh once he realized, like, okay, you're barely in it. But I'm proud. I think it's really cool. Anybody can write, Sandy Koufax or somebody, Roger Clemens. Those are easy. Hard to find a Tim Dillard.
That is. Next, he's got a question.
It can be about homemade bread too, if you're really, really curious.
Are they 10 different types of bread?
No, it's the first one I pulled up on AI.
Oh,
It,
okay.
yeah, it's like 1 1/3 cups of lukewarm water, 3 cups of flour, a third teaspoon of active dry yeast, which I don't even know what that was. Had to go to Publix, found that, and then 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. And then you mix it together, and then it sits on my counter for 18 hours, and then I put it in the oven with the oven off for 5 hours. And then I preheat the oven 450, and I put it back in there for 40 minutes, and it comes out, and it's awesome. My kids have been crushing it.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I just decided one day, I'm like, I've eaten too many bratwursts in the press box, where I was like, I got to do something just a little bit healthier. So I got on the kick to see what is possible out there. And I don't know. It's been fun to do. And the kids are kind of on the journey with me. I made chicken noodle soup, but it wasn't really soup today. It was just a lot of chicken and a lot of noodles. And it tasted terrible.
No.
Trial and error.
Yeah. Not seeing any questions. What are your feelings about Woody coming back? We all
Oh,
like
it's
Woody and
awesome.
all that. How do you feel about with his injuries and all? Is that going to be a concern?
Well, it might be one of the reasons he did sign back with the Brewers. If he goes and what would someone really going to offer him? They may get 3 years for the same amount of money, or it's kind of a gamble. But I think again, he's betting on himself and take the what is it, the qualified offer and just run with it. Who cares? As long as you have a jersey and you have an opportunity, you got a chance. And I think he's betting on himself to be like, you know what? The injury at the end of the season, I think he saw enough where he knew what he could do. But I'm glad that he's back. I love Woody. He lives 5 minutes from where my parents live in Mississippi. So I do talk to him every once in a while, see him over Christmas every once in a while. And he is literally a good old boy. Like he's just a great human to be around. And he fits in with the Brewers. He's that type of guy.
That's the feelings I've had, and just some of the comments and things that I've seen on that. That's good to know. So,
Yeah, and he is, and as far as the baseball aspect of it, to have Freddie and to have Woody, it ups the game because everybody's looking for a guy that could be Freddie Peralta or Brandon Woodruff, and the Brewers have two, those guys. So to me, that's just one time through the rotation, you have a chance. One of those guys is going to do something amazing throughout a season, especially if they stay healthy. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Just if he can stay healthy, he's going to be good because he knows how to pitch, regardless if he throws 98 or 95. The guy knows how to pitch.
I think his strikeout numbers were up percentage wise, even though he was throwing slower this year. So he learned how to pitch with the injury.
Well, we always do this thing in the bullpen years. We would talk about like locking it in. Like, what does locking it in mean? And everybody had a story about how they felt amazing. You're in the bullpen, you're throwing, the ball's coming out, it's moving, it's fast, you're hitting your spot, and you're like, this is the best I've ever thrown. And you get out there, you throw your warm-up pitches in the mound, and you're just, man, I have such dominant stuff. And then you start pitching, and everything you throw, the guys are on it. They're crushing it. Or you're not getting the calls, or maybe they're just dinking the ball all over the infield, and suddenly you give up 5 runs, and you're like, what in the world? But then there's those days where you feel like garbage. Like maybe you got your fingernail ripped off during practice, or you twisted your ankle during PFP, and then suddenly you got to go out there and pitch for your job and get people out. For whatever reason, when you feel like you don't have it, you lock it in that much more. I mean, you just zero in, and I don't even know how to explain it. It's almost like you don't want to feel your best. Like you don't want to be your best. Your best is when your stuff is good, but you're locked in the most, if that makes any sense at all. And so I think with Woodruff, I think there was a little bit of like, you know what, maybe I don't have where I can just kind of turn my brain off and just eat guys alive with my stuff. I think his thought process was, I know how to pitch. I know what they're thinking. I know their swings, and I'm going to read that and actually pitch rather than just try to throw and, get people out that way. So that's kind of what I saw from him. He was very smart on the mound. I would say smarter wise with his sequence and how he shaped his pitches, probably better than years past.
That's encouraging. Dixie, I see your hand up over there.
Yes. Back in the old days, when the Miami outfield was Ozuna, Stanton, and Yelich, I picked Yelich as my favorite guy of the three. So here you are, sitting right here so that you can tell me in a couple of minutes, what is Christian Yelich as a player and as a person?
Yelich is awesome. It's almost like he doesn't know how good he is, but he's actually kind of quiet at times where he's not trying to be the star. He's not trying to be the centerpiece, but he is. Guys are gravitated to him, and they should be. Especially the Brewers with such a young group. The stuff that I like to bring up on our shows is what you don't get to see as a fan. So like I'll get to the field early, and I do that to watch, the guys take early batting practice, like Contreras, Churio, Adames when he was here. And then you see the fundamental come in. Guys are bunting or guys are doing base stealing work, and Yelich is out there. And let's be honest, Yelich doesn't have to be out there. He could be one of the last guys that shows up at the clubhouse. He doesn't have to go out. He knows how to steal a base. He knows how to bunt. Probably better than almost anybody in the league. So why is he out there? He is out there, and once the coaches kind of talk about the drill and what they're doing, I have watched this. They just turn it over to Yelich. And Yelich starts talking about bunting. Hey, this is what we're trying to do here. This is what we're trying to do here. A lefty's pitching, a righty's pitching. Third base is up. First base is crashing. Where are you going to bunt the ball? It's talking, all the ins and outs. And he's doing that. And as an older player, which I don't even think he's that old, but comparatively, but once you start that phase of your game where you're kind of teaching it, suddenly you just get better at it. I felt that I was the oldest guy in AA in 2014. And these guys were not patronizing me. They were actually wanting to know more about baseball, more about pitching, more about AAA, the big leagues, what to expect, and once I started kind of sharing that, I felt like I was getting better as a pitcher because when you're verbalizing what you do and how you do it, for whatever reason, it's like a teacher. Like you're teaching yourself and you're learning it. That's Yelich. He is digging into all these young guys to try to make them as good as they can possibly be. All the while still putting up amazing numbers and battling injuries. How many injuries has this guy battled? So, I think the sky's the limit. I think he could have been, he was all-star last year, could have been an all-star this year, I think. And the fact that he took over DH, because, sometimes you don't know how good these guys are. It's like, well, a pitcher. If there's a bullpen pitcher, it's like, oh, that's all he can do. Or someone like Woodruff, oh, all he can do is pitch. But then he hits a home run off Kershaw, and you're like, this guy can hit. Giovanni Gallardo, this guy ended ball games. He would throw 9 innings and put up the only run. Like, these guys are showcasing themselves. They can do a lot. They're not just one-dimensional players. Then you got Yelich, where it's like he's done everything on the field, and then they ask him to be the DH. And being a DH is not easy. You have to find a rhythm and a balance to what you're doing. Some guys that are DHs, you won't even see them. They're in the dugout. They walk out after the last at bat, and then they just go to the clubhouse or the cage. And that's all they do is stay loose because that works for them. Other guys don't leave the bench, and all they do is stay there and watch the game. But you have to know yourself. And for Yelich to work hard at that, and what I think he did a fantastic job of figuring out what works for him to be ready to do that. So what I've seen from him, he's mastered outfield. He's mastered hitting at times. He's mastered base running. Now he's mastered DHing. It's not easy to do at the big league level, any of those. But that's the kind of player he is. And again, he's a great human.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
He bought me coffee in San Diego one time too. That was cool. He was standing behind me. I didn't even see him because it was like six in the morning or something. And I was like, I just got a coffee. And he's like, hey, I'll pick it up. And I was like, oh, thanks, Yelly. I was like, I didn't even see you there. His eyes were like barely open. He's like, I'm barely awake. I forgot why we had to get up so early. But anyway, just always looking to do the right thing, I think, is sometimes overlooked when it's such a kind of a look at me type sport.
And it sounds like not only does he looking to do the right thing, he in fact does the right thing.
Well, yeah. Well, sometimes you got to be looking for it, like, whether it's that person that wants an autograph, or there's times when, he's trying to get ready for a ball game and they want him to catch the first pitch. And sometimes there's guys that just, I don't want to do it just because I got to, it's a time thing and I got to do what I'm doing. And he would take time out of his, routine to go out there and catch a first pitch. I know that seems mundane, but a guy that, is a multi-time all-star and, has got 10 years in the show and $100 million, like, believe me, he doesn't have to do much. So he goes above and beyond. But to me, again, that reflects the Brewers. It reflects on all these younger guys that are going, this is what I need to do if I ever make that pinnacle. Because if Christian Yelich is out early working on bunting or base running, then who's the rookie guy? Caleb Durbin. Caleb Durbin's like, am I going to miss a time of bunting and running base? No, he'll never miss that. You got to be kidding. So he's setting an example. A lot of older guys just almost fight against that at times.
And if he's catching the first pitch, that must be an unbelievable thrill for the person who's throwing the first pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people get the request. Usually they just got Quentin Berry when he was there. Julio Bourbon does it now. So basically whoever's coaching first. But every once in a while, you'll just see, Sal Frelick's like, no, I'm catching this. And there's a request. They'll get a request like, hey, they want this person. And, players can say no. Sometimes they don't have a choice. Like, no, that's going to mess up. I got to get treatment at a certain time or I'm doing this. There's a lot involved. It's not as simple as it used to be where it's just like, hey, just go grab that guy, But it's things like that, the small things that sometimes get overlooked that I see and I try to convey to, the fans, because to me, that's the stuff that I always looked at. A player can be good on the field, but if he gets in the clubhouse and the guy's a huge jerk, it's kind of like, so, but he's 100% awesome. Yeah. I tell him all the time, I'm like, man, we'd be best friends. We need to hang out more.
It's because he buys coffee.
Yeah, good coffee, dude.
That's interesting to hear. We were a host family for the Madison Mallards for 5 years, and the first player that we had is still a good friend. And talking to him, he was at Arizona State he went to Coach Cheese for 2 years, then went to Arizona State for 4 years. His mother said you went to a 2-year school, had to go to 4-year school. You couldn't have done it in 4 combined. But so he was a student coach for Murph for 2 years. And he then became a batting practice pitcher, left-handed batting practice pitcher for the Diamondbacks. And he did that for 5, 6 years. And he would talk about players' routines and the whole team. At 6:37, we have batting practice. At 7:02, we do this. And if you change it, the game time starts or anything, he said the amount of whining and griping like the world was coming to the end because they had to change the time. They're so set on their times and all. So to hear Yelly does that so willingly that means more to me because I understand that the routine thing that these guys have.
Yeah, and they're creatures of habit. And the reason they're so disciplined, they're not flippant. It looks sometimes that you're like, oh, like you watch Churio and you're like, this guy just, flies by the seat of his pants. He just kind of makes up his swing sometimes and, tracks down the ball. But they work so hard and they are very regimented when it comes to this is what time I eat. I did this. I was like, what time I eat before a game, what time I put my spikes on, what time I mean, it's not just a getting ready thing. You're preparing physically, with your equipment, but you're preparing mentally for the whole thing. Oftentimes that will get overlooked because, you're not, the mental side of it is actually probably the most important just because it controls everything that you're doing. And it's not a superstition, but if you get if the way you prepare, you've had success, you go and prepare that way the same way. Like you'll see guys, they'll get completely ready and they put their belt on last. And then you see other guys put their belt on through their pants before they put their pants on. Like and everyone does it differently, how they put their socks on. And because they know that once that last, whatever the last thing is, like maybe the last thing's walking out of the dugout, they know mentally, I have checked every box. I am completely ready for this game. That way you turn your brain off to all the prepared stuff. Now it's time to focus because it's a journey. It's usually thirds. It's preparation, focus, and execution. So you're preparing for that, that third of the day or whatever. And then you got to focus for kind of a shorter amount of time, I guess. And then, you get to execute, but it's like a pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid's really wide. And the very point is when the game starts. So the whole day, from the time you wake up, you're slowly going to that point at the top. So you're getting all the stuff done that you need to do. And then when you're about to reach that point, that's when you start really narrowing in on, okay, now it's go time. And I've seen some really cool stuff. Like I always hear the stories about like Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer is like a beast. Like there's people that have been around him enough where they could tell you, at 4:15 on his pitch day, this is exactly where you can find this guy. Like that's how precise these guys can be.
Interesting. You mentioned Durbin. I know when they picked him up in the trade, there was some excitement about him, but coming out of spring training, he didn't look like a third baseman. Did he surprise you how well he did?
I mean, I think everybody was surprised that he played. He didn't just play adequate third base, he played well above average third base in the big leagues for the first time. That's not going to get overlooked anytime soon. I mean, we saw Joey Ortiz do it last year, and that was impressive. But that guy is just built for shortstop. He is one of the slickest fielders I've ever seen. And Durbin be able to solidify third really helped the club. Did I think he was going to be able to play third? You hoped it. You hoped. I think everybody kind of hoped. And once you get the opportunity and he took advantage of it, you saw what kind of player he was. And I know everybody was talking about like the stolen bases, and I think he'd only been caught stealing like a miniature amount. But what I looked at, because there's different ways to look at a player, and especially players you don't know, all you're going off is stats, like what the stats tell you. And sometimes those can be skewed when it's just the minor leagues, because they could be facing a position player, a lot, which I've seen, or they're too good for their league. This guy's in AA, should easily be in AAA, and he's just crushing these younger kids. But one thing I saw is he was getting hit by pitch a lot. Like you don't have that many hit by pitches if you're not that type of player, which is I'm not moving, which means I'm okay if you throw inside. And so we got to see that on display. I think he was in the top 3 of, hit by pitches throughout the year. He's a grinder. And those were frustrating people for me to face because you classify every guy, if he's leadoff man or cleanup batter, whatever you do, however a pitcher classifies. If I see a guy that has an absurd amount of hit by pitches, I'm like, well, great. If I throw it inside and I miss, I'm going to hit him. He's going to be on base. So then that makes pitchers, well, I'm going to catch a little bit more of the corner. All of a sudden, whack, this dude's hitting it. That kind of stuff matters, and so that's kind of what I saw from him. That showed me a lot, even though I didn't even know what he looked like. But I knew his numbers, and I could tell you probably just off of those, what kind of player this guy could become.
Plus, he didn't strike out that often.
Didn't strike out.
Yeah.
He's all over the dish.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going to throw him?
Yeah.
I would hit him. That's what I would do.
Vince, you got your hand up.
Yeah. Hi, Tim.
By the way, welcome, Vince, to is this your first SABR?
Well, I'm technically a member of the Houston chapter, so I go monthly there. But
Okay.
yeah, this is one of my first Milwaukee ones.
Okay, super.
Yep. Diehard Brewers fan, though. Tim, you played parts of 4 seasons in the big leagues. Did you have a favorite season? I guess either any of those 4 seasons or in the minors as well.
I mean, '08 was fun because I didn't do anything, but I got to watch CC Sabathia dominate the world. Thought that was pretty cool. 2011, I actually got to participate a little bit more, and we go to playoffs. That was incredible. I wish I could forget '09. That was a nightmare. But every day in the big leagues is the best day of your life, regardless. I mean, it's a culmination of so many different things, and just just the experience of doing it. And these people get September call-ups or whatever, and then they start off in AAA the next year. And all that's designed to do is to give them a taste of what it's like. And I remember one of the first guys that got called up with our group when I was coming up was Drew Anderson. He's now a scout for the Brewers. He got Mizorowski, I think. No, I don't know if he got Mizorowski. He got Aaron Ashby. I know that. And so he was one of our outfielders. So me and Drew, we came up together, and he was one of the first guys to get called up, and he got sent back down. And he was like, you don't even get it. You don't even get it. And this is back when AA, AAA, minor leagues, pretty bad across the board comparatively. It's gotten better over the years, but at the time he was telling us stuff like stories like, yeah, you never carry your bag. He's like, your locker's huge. You can get a fresh hat if that one has mold on it or whatever. He's like, you just don't believe. And we're like, this is crazy. And we were asking, and he just stopped us and he was like, you know what? He's like, I know what it is. It's fuel. It shows you a glimpse of what it could be. And that's motivation. And so that was what he did. He just dove into like motivation. So that's what it's like. When you're in the big leagues, all you want to do is stay in the big leagues. If you're not in the big leagues, all you want to do is get there. I was fortunate enough to make it. So every day in the big leagues for me was the best day of my life. I was like, this is great. Even though I was getting shellacked or giving up the game, that happened a couple times. But even my dad called me the other day. He was walking, exercise, sure. But he called me and was just like, you know what? He goes, I was just thinking, if Ken Maka was not the manager of the Brewers in 2009, he goes, you probably could have played 10 years in the big leagues.
I was about to ask you why your 2009 was so miserable, and then I sort of figured that might be it.
It was, everything
Yeah.
got turned upside down. And,
Yeah.
and nowadays, you get called up, you could start, you could relieve, and that was semi-common.
Yeah.
But I started out as a reliever, and I did pretty good up
Yeah.
to the point where they're like, you did good enough, we're going to start you. And then I did really good starting. Even, AAA, I thought my year in AAA, my first year was really bad, but comparatively, man, that league is tough to put up good numbers. And I threw a lot of
I
innings.
actually saw you pitch down in Nashville that year. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were like, all right, we're going to put you in the bullpen. So I was like, oh, so now I'm back in the bullpen 2008, and I put up a 1 ERA in AAA, and they called me to the big league. So I'm like, great, I'm a bullpen guy. And then in 2009, they called me in the office, and they go, yeah, we're going to send you down. I was like, dude, I did pretty good. I'm throwing 96. I got a 90-mile-an-hour slider. I mean, that plays. I feel like I'm doing pretty good. Trained all off season as a reliever. And they were like, no, we're going to send you down. And we need starters. We need starters really bad. We're short-handed. So go down, be the best starter, and we'll call you up. I was like, okay, So I go down to AAA, ended up being the best starter in AAA at the time. In fact, my last game before I got called up in 2009, I threw, it was supposed to be a 7-inning game, ended up going 8 innings. I won the game, complete game. We won 1-0 because I gave up a dinker infield base hit to Khalil Green, who was playing shortstop, I think, for the Memphis Redbirds, AAA of Cardinals. Anyway, random. And then they called me up the next day, and they didn't start me. They put me in the bullpen. They started Carlos Villanueva. So here I am off of throwing 20 pitches or 110 pitches or something, 2 days off, and then I'm throwing in a game. And I threw 4 innings against the Nationals, I think, got shellacked. I had 2 days off. I think we go to San Diego, and they bring me into a 1-run ball game after Braden Looper. And I'm like, dude, I'm not prepared for this. So I think it goes back to you as a manager or as a coach in general, you want to put your players in the best position possible. And they just didn't know that. They thought I was maybe the guy from 2008, which I wanted to be. And if you prepare that way, you can be that guy. But then they put me to starting, and starting is just a different beast. And it's not like I was going back and forth. It was more like I throw 100 innings as a starter, and then they call me up to relieve. And the stuff at that time just didn't play like it does, that it can now. If you throw 100, but those guys are only bullpen guys mostly. So I don't know. I feel like if they would have used me a little bit better, I could easily have seen myself as like a Logan Webb type pitcher. Back then it was Derek Lowe, those kind of guys. Brandon Webb with the Diamondbacks, just hard sinkers that no matter what's going on in the game, I can get you a ground ball. Like I could be that guy. Keep the ball from going over the fence, that kind of stuff. And I think Ken Maka just had no clue where I fit in. And so that kind of was the spiral. And the next spring training, I showed up in 2010. They're like, "We want you to throw sidearm." I was like, "Oh man." At least it's not the knuckleball. But I ended up getting back to the big leagues, pitched another 11 seasons in professional baseball, so maybe it was the right call. But everyone's career goes back to, I don't blame anybody. There's no blame. It's not like I got hurt and left the game. It's just I aged out. It took a global pandemic to get rid of my career. So I know some guys can probably boast about that, but that's kind of what happened to me.
Thanks, Tim. And you're not the first person I've heard say that about Ken Maka. So,
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he's a good dude. He's smart. My dad was actually, he told me a story one day. I was walking down Blue Mound after a game. I stay out in Brookfield when I'm there, and he was telling me, I think he was in winter ball with Ken Maka. And so he was telling like a winter ball story in Magianis. That was like 1976, maybe 77. Anyway, it's not relevant right now, but
thank
wish
you.
I had more details. I wasn't really listening. Sorry, Pops.
Somehow hearing Ken Maka's name tonight was not something I wanted to hear. That's not good, fond memory. So yeah.
Well, he was nice to me. It's just, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, you have an idea as a player of how things should run. Every time there's a game going on and there needs to be like a pitching change, you know that bullpen is all down there going, they need to put in this guy. And that guy doesn't say anything. That guy's just kind of like, like they were down there going, put in Abner Uribe. It could be the seventh inning. They're like, put Uribe in. Everyone knows it. And then they'll be like, no, we're going to put in, Ashby. And everybody, why are you putting in Ashby? Like everyone knows the game dictates like what. And I feel like with Maka, he had no idea what was going on with some of what was happening and who would be the best matchup. It was just kind of like throw a dart against the bullpen card, and see who's ready.
Dave, you have a question?
Hi, Tim. In
Hey.
2011, you pitched 28 and two-thirds innings, striking out 27 and only walking 4. To what do you attribute the improvement that year?
Is that true? I mean, if it's true, I mean, I believe you. You said it, not me. I don't know. That was my first full season in 2010 was, throwing sidearm. I realized that I knew I could get people out. I'd never been a strikeout guy. And the last month of the season in 2010, they called me in the office. We were in Reno, and Brandon Kinsler, if you remember Brandon Kinsler, he was coming off the IL. And Don Money calls me in there, and all the coaches were just dead silent. So with Kinsler coming off, somebody was going to get released because there was just no room for anybody. And I get to the field early just because that's the way I am. And they called me in, and gave me the silent treatment, and I'm like, daggone. All I could think was, I got to call my family, I got to call my wife, and be like, hey, they finally got smart and released me. Like that's where I was mentally. And they were like, listen, you're not getting released. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, great. What are we doing? And they go, we want to know if you'd be able to start. And all I'd done is thrown out of the bullpen. And when you're out of the bullpen and you're trying to figure things out, you throw one inning to maybe 3 or 4 hitters, and then you don't pitch for another 3 days. And then you get, a couple of hitters here, and then you don't pitch for 3 days. So you don't really get to work on stuff as like a starter who gets to throw 100 pitches. And I was like, absolutely, I'll start. And I loved it. I loved it because I was figuring it out in real time, because I had multiple hitters to be able to throw my stuff and see how they reacted. And then I could figure out how they're approaching me. You can't really do that when you're facing 1, 2, or 3 hitters every, couple of days, or, 6 hitters a week's not going to fly. So suddenly I hit a stride there, and I'm like, man, I'm actually really good. And then we faced Salt Lake City, came to Greer Stadium in Nashville. And they wouldn't let me come out and shag BP because I was starting that day, because I always loved shagging BP. So they made me stay in the clubhouse, and our computers guy was like, hey, you want to look at some of your analytics? And this is 2010, so it's not like it is now, but it was pretty good. And I was like, no, can you pull up every swing and miss I had all year long, and like on video? And he was like, sure. So I just watched myself get people out for like 10 minutes. And he goes, you want to know why your stuff works? He's like, we can take a look at it. And he told me that 8 out of 10 fastballs I threw that were hit in play were on the ground. And I go, is that good? And he's like, that's like double the major league average. I was like, oh, cool. Oh, go bonus. And he goes, your curveball is a 50% swing and miss rate. And I was like, is that good? He's like, that's great. That means if you throw 4 curveballs, you're going to get 2 swings and misses. I was like, oh, that's even better. And so I went out that night and I threw 8 innings against the AAA for the Angels. I hung 1 curveball, and Mark Trumbo hit it into oblivion with nobody on base. So I give it 1 run. We won the game, and it finally clicked for me. So fast forward, long-winded to 2011, I think I'd figured out that my stuff was good and I could throw it in the zone. I didn't have to get guys to chase. It was, here it is, try to hit it, more or less, and let the movement dictate. And I can throw 92 in on your hands, or I can throw, 72 away from you. And you had to be ready for this, kind of the shape of the baseball. And if I would have had a better plan to get lefties out, I bet my numbers would have been better. That didn't come till later, but it's that kind of stuff. It's that kind of stuff where you figure out how your stuff plays and how you approach hitters. So one of the big things that I had to do as a sidearm, I can't walk anybody. And I bet those 4 walks, I bet a majority of them, 3, if not all 4 of them, are probably left-handed batters, because Dale Schwame used to tell me, he would say, listen, if you're dominating righties and you got a lefty up, but there's a righty on deck, he's like, just walk this dude. Like, just, pitch him tough. And if he takes his walk, just get the next guy out. And so that really was a help when a big league coach is, telling you that, hey, that sometimes it's okay to do that. But that's what it was. It was, my stuff's good enough to throw it in the zone. I didn't have to get guys to go chase out of the zone for it.
Thank you.
Dixie.
Yes. It must have been exciting every time Mizorowski went out to pitch. My question is, what does he have to learn to really become the next Skeens or Skubal?
Probably just keeping the ball in the zone more. He pitched a game in Pittsburgh, I think. It was an Apple Plus game. It was Friday. And I was in the stands. That's how I was watching. And it was amazing because they left it. I think he struggled, but then he came back out for like the 3rd inning, and he was just a different human. Everything he threw was a strike, and he completely abandoned his slider. His slider at the time, it was almost like a fastball, for most people, like a 96 mile an hour fastball. And it's like, it slides a little bit, but you're giving a hitter a chance. They can't catch up the 101, but if you throw that slider and they're trying to get to it, then boom, he was getting hurt. He was getting hurt. Homers, lefties were getting good swings on him. He came out, ditched the slider, basically threw fastball and curveball, and just carved an entire lineup, I think for about 4 innings or 5 innings. They ran him back out there. I think he ended up going 7. And that was one of the best games I'd seen pitched all season long by any Brewer, because the way it started out and then the way it finished. And I thought, boom, it clicked. Like, he's going to figure it out. And then next start, he kind of went back to what he was doing before. What I think he needs to do is what every pitching coach has probably always told him. You need to be able to roll out of bed and hit a spot with a pitch. You just have to do that. You can't be at any point struggle with all your pitches trying to find a strike. I figured out years ago, sidearm. If I'm a right-handed hitter and there's a sidearm righty on the mound, you better believe he's going to pitch inside, right? You're already expecting it. Before the ball even leaves my hand, their front foot is already going towards the third base dugout, because they're like, oh, they're backing out. So I realized I can throw a heater down and away. There's nothing they can do about it. Or I can throw a heater up and away. There's nothing they can do about it. They're not going to be stepping this way and then throw the bat. They're uncomfortable. And then I thought about, okay, well, what's a tough pitch for a left-handed batter? Heater up and in. Heater up and in from a sidearm righty. What's he going to do with that? He can't do anything with that unless he's sitting on it. And even if he's on it, he's still probably going to pull it foul. So to me, I was like, okay, instead of my bullpens where you get 35 pitches or 40 pitches to throw a bullpen and you throw 20 fastballs. So you throw 20 fastballs, but you got quadrants. You go up and away, you go down and away, you go up and in, you go down and in, right? So 5 pitches, 5 pitches, 5 pitches, 5 pitches. Those are 20 fastballs. I thought, I'm over that. I'm going to throw 20 fastballs right here because it's good to righties and it's good to lefties. So I started all my bullpens. I'm throwing 20 fastballs in this one spot because I want to roll out of bed and hit that spot. And honestly, if I had to roll out of bed tomorrow and hit that spot, I probably good high percentage I could do it because you're just repetition of doing it. What I see from Mizorowski is a guy that is trying to do way too much. Like he's trying to throw a slider in too many different places. He's trying to throw a fastball in too many different places, curveball into me. He's got to simplify. His stuff is good enough that he can just be like, I'm going to hit this spot. And if he hits, we watch Greinke do it. Greinke's not throwing 102. Greinke would throw a fastball cut down and away, and guy takes it. And then he throws the exact same pitch again. Guy takes it. He's 0-2. He's like, oh, now he's going to throw me. Throws the exact same pitch again. Did he trick him? A little bit. But what did he do? He hit his spot 3 times. If Mizorowski can go out there and hit a spot, 7, 8, 9, 10, out of 10 times, he's going to be unstoppable. But right now, I think he's just kind of 50% at so many different places. And so guys don't have to swing. And that's what I would tell. If I was a hitting coach on the opposing team, I'm like, if he's not throwing strikes, don't help him. Don't help him. And I think that's what we saw several of his outings. But that's just a young thing. I mean, this guy spent, a blink of an eye in Double-A? He didn't know any better.
Is this a case of you must learn how to pitch and not just throw?
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's different for everybody. Pitching for me, it changed as I got older because I knew what to look for. I think that's what I saw. We were talking about Woodruff. I saw that from Woodruff. Stuff in the past, he could just stuff the guys. That's just throwing. And you could, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the times when you need to pitch, you need to recognize what the hitter is doing. Hitter will tell you a lot with your first pitch. That's why a lot of guys are afraid to swing first pitch. They don't want to give away what they're trying to do. And the reason is because if they swing first pitch and they're wrong, they're showing what they're looking for. So if I throw a curveball and the guy, is out in front on it and just boom, swings, it's like, you're looking heater. So what does a pitcher do? You don't want to throw a heater. Why would you help him? So you throw another curveball, and this time he's kind of on it and he fouls it off. It's like, okay, what do you do now? You have to read the swing. That's why you hear them read the swing. You got to see what they're trying to do. And you can tell, man, they're about to be on my curveball. You could try it again, or maybe you go to a heater now that maybe you can get away with it. And when you have electric stuff, I promise the last thing that you're thinking is, oh, I wonder how this hitter's approaching me. He's 6'10", right? Or 6'8". He's just throwing bullets, man. Like he's never had to see what the guys are trying to do. And now he gets to the big leagues and some of these guys are legit and they can, catch up to 102, 103. So, that's just a learning curve that he's never had to learn because he's never come across a formidable opponent, for a long period of time. So pitching for him is going to be a little bit different, but, everybody has to learn gradually. You can't just introduce everything to a player because they're going to get overwhelmed.
The highlight of my baseball this year was seeing Skeens pitch and win at Fenway Park. Have you seen Skeens pitch enough to explain his success?
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw him 2 or 3 times two. He pitched against the Brewers at least twice. Yeah, he's just super consistent. Like nobody has, I would say at any given moment, he has pretty good control over 4 pitches. And they all look the exact same for a long time until they're not. And he doesn't try to get chase. I think there's a time he went and pitched against the Brewers. I think he didn't do well, but I think he was trying to throw every pitch a strike. Sometimes you can just tell. I had a pitching coach tell me that one time. I was throwing too many balls. I was trying to nitpick. And pitch coach got in my face like, hey, I want you to throw every pitch a strike the whole game. Like that's your goal, right? And then it was about the 3rd or 4th inning, the guy's like, all right, you can kind of do whatever you want. But he's trying to get the point across. Like throw the strikes. And I think I saw Skeens doing that because there was times when it's like 0-2 and it's like, oh, you got to waste a pitch here. And he'd throw it very hittable, and guys were surprised by it. I'm like, this guy's just trying to throw every pitch a strike. And sometimes you need that calibration like that. Sometimes you're just kind of like, you know what? I'm in between. I'm just going to try to throw everything for a strike. But that's kind of what he can do. He can throw more strikes than most guys throwing that fast. I think Hunter Green with the Reds. Now, I think his biggest thing was he needed to throw some sort of strike that's not right down the middle because he would throw hard, but it's the straightest fastball you've ever seen. So I think this year he had success because he's trying to get more movement and he's trying to find a place to put it. And that's what Skeens has already done since he's been in the big leagues. He's got that movement and he knows where to put it, and he has like 4 pitches that he can pull out, and he's already versed. He's already versed on what these guys are, what their weakness is and what their strengths are. And then he just gets on the same page with the catcher. But I think consistency, it's very strange for a guy to throw 100 that long in a game, that many strikes, and be that efficient. That's just absurd.
It sounds like there's good and then there's Skeens good.
I mean, that's, you can't, a lot of guys are like, yeah, that's how I want to pitch or whatever. Just like Roger Clemens or Nolan Ryan or even Maddox. It's like these dudes are all unicorns, and they're Pedro Martinez. Like, you kidding me? Like, the guy's fingers are so long, he can bend his, fingernails back to his wrist. I always use the example. We talked with Devin Williams, like the reason he can throw that changeup is because his hands can do stuff that no one else's hands can do. Because you always wonder, like, why don't you just throw it like this? Like, not everybody has that anatomy to be able to do that. And so people are like, oh, I'm going to pitch like Skeens. Like, man, it's not that you can't do it, but he's just been given the gift, and he's taken care of it. The biggest surprise to me is he's been able to stay healthy, not just have success, but just stay healthy. Like, if he had been hurt and he missed a couple of months, he came back and was still good, it'd be like, well, this could be a sign of something, but he is a workhorse. He's a beast. Kind of feel bad that he's a pirate a little bit. Sorry. But if they surround him with a good team, I mean, he's a bona fide ace, and the way he's looking, he'll be an ace for a long time.
Pirates got to have somebody.
They got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Along that line, looking at Freddie, he gets ahead of the batters, and next thing you know, it seems like he's nibbling, which equals high pitch counts and low innings pitched. Why is he starting to nibble? I don't understand why he gets ahead quickly and then just is at 90 pitches by 5 innings.
Yeah, it's frustrating for everybody, but it's what he does. I mean, it's hard to explain other than he doesn't care if he throws 30 pitches in an inning if he puts up a zero, because if the leadoff man hits a double first pitch, you better believe it'll take 30 pitches for him to get out of the inning, but he doesn't give up a run. So you're kind of like, whereas broadcasters are like, he didn't give up a run, but so it's hard to fault him for not being efficient. But back in the day, we used to make fun. Carlos Villanueva, him and I were, on the same team for a while. We would start, and we were completely different guys. He would throw 5 innings, 100 pitches, strike out 10, and give up, 2 runs. I would throw 7 innings, strike out 3, throw 100 pitches, and give up 2 or 3 runs. So like, which one's better? Well, you can't have, and here's why. This is why I think Freddie works with the Brewers, is because he was lucky to have Quinn Priester. Quinn Priester going deep into ball games changed everything. Quintana at times as well, but you can't have 5 starters that go 5 innings. It ain't going to work. Your bullpen is going to be shot. Even if you were doing the swinging door going from AAA, you're going to be blown to shreds. So Freddie's not able to be that guy if it's not for everyone else on the team saving the bullpen. But every once in a while, Freddie will throw 6 or he'll go 7. But still, that's a bonus. I think right now they're like, go out there, pitch 5 innings, give up 1 or 0 runs, and we're cool with that. And I think if they wanted him to go 6 or 7 innings, I bet they would tell him, hey, you got to start throwing more strikes sooner. But, he is susceptible to the home run. So for him throwing more strikes, if it means more home runs, it's not just a single here and there. It's like, whack, homer. Okay. So if he don't want to give up a homer, but he's willing to walk 2 guys and throw 30 pitches and get out of the inning, I think that's just where it's at. If somebody were to pick him up, if I had a team and I was going to pick up Freddie, like trade for him or something, I better have 2 guys that consistently get into the 7th inning easily. Like guys that are just, this is who they are, like a Logan Webb who pitches into the 7th every single time out. Because you can't have a bunch of 5 and dive guys on a team. But that used to be a negative. You didn't want that on you. Hey, this guy's 5 and dive, but it's absolutely 5 shutdown innings. And then with bullpens the way they are now, and you got 26-man rosters, it's like, why not? 5 and dive is not what it used to be. It's the context of it has changed now because baseball has allowed for a little bit more of that to happen.
Okay. Um, that's interesting. I looked at it driving me crazy, and the team's looking
Hmm.
at it as he's getting out of the inning and not giving up a run. That's what we're looking for. So
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, look at the other team. The other team is like, we got him on the rocks. Everyone thinks that. We got him. We got, and then all of a sudden they look at the scoreboard and they're like, oh, we didn't score any runs.
yeah,
And I get it because I don't like to watch that kind of baseball. I honestly don't. That's why I like Quinn Priester so much, or even Chad Patrick. I mean, he's Logan Henderson. I mean, these guys are just like, here's strikes, and I love that. And I teach my 10-year-old's team. They ask me to take over the pitching thing, and I say, you're going to throw every pitch a strike. My kid, my oldest is 16 now, but when he started pitching when he was younger, I just told him to throw strikes. And we would be watching these little league games where nothing would happen, right? You've seen these games, I'm sure. The kids are pitching and it's just walks and then walks and then maybe there's a strike and then there's walks and then innings go by and you're just like, I know this is my child, but I want to leave. I want to leave this game. And so I coached my guy to be like, you're going to throw strikes. So he goes out there, he throws strikes, the kids hit it, and then nobody fields it or there's an error. And then he ends up giving, over the course of a couple innings, he gives up like 10 runs and they lose the game and everyone's upset. And I'd have to tell him, dude, I've never been so proud. You threw strikes. That's it. Every pitcher out there has to throw strikes, and once you throw strikes, then you can teach yourself how not to throw strikes. Man, that's where I think it was Sandy Koufax that said something like that. He's like, I became a good pitcher when I stopped trying to get him to, swing and miss at the ball and tried to get him to hit it. Like there's truth to that madness. You fill up the zone with strikes and it has to start at an early age, but it's not cool, right? Like, oh, giving up runs are not cool. But if you're playing the long game, you got to be able to throw strikes. And yeah, that has to do with long pitch counts and shorter innings.
yeah. I'm not trying to hog the questions here, Francis. Just real quick. Does anybody know how many pitchers the LA Dodgers used this season?
It was the most, right?
Yep. How many?
About
Uh,
40 or something, wasn't it?
47.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
That's great. Remember 2011, the Brewers only had 6 starters the entire year.
Yeah.
And that's only because Chris Narveson stuck a glove tool in his thumb and Marco Estrada had to take over. I did a study. I went back and looked, I think at 10 to 15 years, trying to figure out all the playoff teams or all the World Series teams, if there was a correlation to who used the fewest amount of starters. Which that may have played, decades ago, but now there really was no correlation. Not to the thought, not to what I thought it was going to be, But I always thought there was something to that. If you're throwing a lot of innings, you're pretty good. If you throw 200 innings, like it means you're pretty successful. And if you throw 200 innings as a pitcher, you're getting better. You're getting better every single pitch, so that next time out you're going to be better. Those guys feed off of it if they can throw innings, but everything's been limited. Look for the Dodgers to start throwing more pitches. I think we already saw that in the World Series, but look for Dodgers pitchers, starters to be stretched out longer. I truly believe that Dodgers are 5 years ahead of everybody. And Clayton Kershaw was on an interview, and I think he messed up. I don't think he meant to say it out loud, but he was asked a question, and Kershaw was like, "Yeah, we tried to limit for last 5 or 10 years, limit innings, limit pitch counts, limit pitches in the bullpen, and injuries have skyrocketed." So he's like, "I think we're going to try to go to the other way on that now." And then he kind of went like kind of looked around, and I was like, "That's the first time I have heard anybody say something like that." And I think he's right. I think he's right. You look at all these Japanese guys, they throw like 200 pitch bullpens in Japan. And then they come to America, they sign these huge deals. So they have little say so on how much they throw. And so no coach is going to keep his job if he's making Ohtani throw 200 pitch bullpens. So everyone's like, no, we're going to limit this. And boom, they all get hurt. You Darvish, everybody. But I think you need to throw more. Always, you need to throw more. You need to learn how to throw a ton of pitches.
Francis.
You spoke a few minutes ago about the anatomy of the hands of pitchers. Named several that had long fingers and a lot of flexibility. Um, I haven't made my, living around baseball players, but are there some pitchers with smaller hands relatively small, normal size hands that are exceptional?
Yeah. I mean, I already said Logan Henderson. I felt like he had kind of small hands when I met him. I mean, I don't think that matters though. It just means you're probably more precise. The taller and lanky guys are usually the guys that, you talk about mechanics. They usually have long fingers, the long arms, and it's hard to stay compact. So a lot of these guys that are very compact, think of like a Tim Hudson. These guys are small, they're compact, and that's okay. Their mechanics, flawless. They're clean because there's not all this, arms and legs flying everywhere. But I think that's what I love about baseball is because anybody can do it. Anybody. It doesn't matter what you look like or how tall you are or short you are. You could be Altuve or Aaron Judge. You could be Chris Young. What's he like, 6'10"? You can throw hard, you can throw slow, you can run fast, you can run slow. I'm not trying to Dr. Seuss it, but you can kind of do whatever, and it finds out what it works for you. You hear about Mariano Rivera. He kind of just fell into his cutter one day, and his coach was like, "No, don't try to correct it. Keep throwing that." It does. Your anatomy does play a factor in it on what kind of player you're going to become, and you can try to force it. There's guys that go to like Drive Line and some of these places, and they're forcing the issue of like, no, I'm not content with what kind of pitcher I am. To get to the next level, I got to become something else. You see a lot of injuries doing that. Dr. Meister in Arlington, the team physician for the Rangers, he did Woody's surgery, pretty much does every, top pitcher's surgery nowadays, whether it's, shoulder or elbow. He's doing a lot of good research talking about the correlation to all this stuff. Shaping of pitches, the way they train, how they grip the baseball. I don't know if he's published anything yet, but if he does, it's going to change baseball. But right now, these guys, if they can throw harder, if they can grip something and get to the big leagues, they don't care if they get hurt, and then the team doesn't care. They'll just go find another guy doing the exact same thing and they just, rinse, repeat. But back in the day, it used to be the split finger. Like if you didn't know how to throw the correct split finger, it wasn't going to work. You're going to blow your elbow up or your forearm. So I've thrown about everything under the sun at one point. Some worked, some didn't, but I threw what I felt like I could stay healthy throwing.
Is it easier to throw certain pitches when you've got long fingers?
One thing that you always hear in baseball is pull down. You got to stay on top of the baseball, that kind of lingo. And that just means like, you want it to come off the very, very end of your fingertips. So like Pedro Martinez, they've done overlays of like him and DeGrom, Jacob DeGrom, and it's like identical mechanics. And the way they come through the baseball and how long their hand stays on the baseball and how far they can get down the mound. I just brought up Pedro Martinez because he's kind of an outlying freak. Like he just could do anything. You felt like he was inventing stuff on the mound. Mix that with not wanting to get beat where he's buzzing guys as towers. I mean, he had a couple of seasons that were, almost unrivaled, but yeah, I mean, it matters like with the hand and how it comes off the hand too. You hear supinating and pronating. I was a pronator, so I would throw good sinkers. A lot of lefties are supinating, so like they can't really throw a sinker. They throw really good cutters. And so you can fight against that, or you can finally come to grips and a pitching coach pointed out like, hey, could you do this? And then boom, all of a sudden everything clicks and you're like, oh, I'm the pitcher or I'm the player that I was always supposed to be. Which is probably the most important thing in a player's career is to figure out just kind of what kind of player they are. If on the position player side, it's like, am I a fast guy? Am I this kind of guy? Am I defense driven? Can I lay a bunt down? Like there's a lot of different kinds of players you can be. And once you find that out, that kind of identity, it really helps. It helps in like how you train in the off season. And when it comes to finding a new pitch or what feels good in your hand, that could even change year to year as well. There was a time I threw a really good changeup and then that went away. I don't know why. And I was like, come on, split finger, you're my new friend, and I used him for a while and learned a pitch in Mexico that I called Chilo. It was a sinker. I don't think anyone's ever really thrown a pitch like this before, but it got me out of Mexico, or at least got me out of independent ball and got me back into pro ball. I would never teach someone how to throw this, at least not for a long period of time, but anyway, it would blow your forearm up big time. I could only throw about 4 a game. before I felt it, but it was effective because it would go straight down. Now, if I kept throwing that, I knew I was going to get hurt. Like I could feel it. Players are so in tune with their bodies and how stuff works. It's almost like they're doing a constant, I don't know, diagnostic check. Every pitch, every sprint, every weight lift, they're doing a diagnostic check, toe to hair, to be like, how do I feel now? Like, what am I feeling? So bullpens, you're throwing something, and your body's just scanning. That's all your mind is doing. You're just scanning, and you're going, okay, I feel something. Like I'm not going to do that. Whatever I did, scratch that. That's not working for me. Whether it's an arm slot or how you're holding something or how it came out or where you stepped. Because definitely pitchers, they're so particular and they can tell. They can tell if the ball came off the wrong way or if it came off the right way. Now they have more computers and, feedback in that way, but pitchers know. They're very particular. Like when the baseball was changed, everybody knew it. Verlander picked up the baseball and was like, expletive, expletive, expletive. He was mad because he could physically tell. Woodruff in Pittsburgh in 2021 or 22, he was like, I asked him about the game he had pitched the night before, and he's like, dude, he's like, I get a good ball, and the guy would foul it off, and he'd throw me these old balls that were just terrible. Like you could just feel it. Pitchers know, man. Everything's built about being particular. So anytime you throw a wrinkle in there, usually guys get upset about that. But that didn't really answer your question other than the best players are the ones that lean into their anatomy and find a way to manipulate the baseball with the gifts they were given.
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're a little past an hour here, well, like an hour and 10 minutes already, taking a lot of Tim's time. Anybody else have a question? Otherwise, we can end this as we usually do here in the Keltner is even though we end the meeting, we just turn off the recording and we go to bar time and talk about anything. So we can do that as well if you like to stick around and talk. But anybody else have a question for Tim if not? Thank you, Tim. When I saw you at the World Series Club, I was thinking December is a dead month. It's hard to talk baseball, and who do I need to help me do that well? And I knew that you would be very good, and so thank you. I appreciate this greatly. So
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it's the winter meetings, right? There is baseball. I mean, they always say there is no off season for players. There definitely is, but front office people, no, they're right in the mix of it. And some of the front office people actually enjoy this part of baseball more. They enjoy building their team or trying to put their team together. I've been to a couple of the winter meetings. One time was to ask for a job. The other time was just to visit. And it is, I'm telling you, baseball is in full swing in certain circles.
okay, well, thank you, everybody, and take care. Our next scheduled meeting is January 10th. It's a get-together holiday meeting at J&B's. And we're working on something else I can talk a little afterwards. So thank you, everybody. Take care.